right, it is currently 4:57 p.m. and I'm capturing video of what it is you already know. You already understand the pattern of conduct that is underway in Los Angeles, which is speaking to the prosecution of the state of California that is engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, as I have referred to it. It's a criminal system which is demonic at its core. So this is also exploring and understanding what demonic activity is and what it looks like. And it is legally relevant. It's factually relevant with regard to the prosecution of a matter of public corruption where a government is placing an American citizen under surveillance and doing it in concert with the people of the state who are in no way exercising any constitutional right while they are living wherever they live or working wherever it is that they work or traveling wherever it is at what is on its surface appearing to be a public place. Because you are understanding what is the maintenance of a very specific environment, and that specific environment has what is entirely unnatural characteristics, and that is made manifest through the documentation, through studying the documentation and understanding the significance of that environment that surrounds the targeted individual, and that environment, which is again a scientific impossibility that it actually exists, and but for documentation is the targeted individual, the ordinary targeted individual, and the federal government, basically, because I'm advocating. So, but for the documentation, the targeted individual who is subject to the system of criminal surveillance, the federal government is not able to really recognize the significance of what is only the behavior. You're ignorant about what's surrounding them while the behavior is ongoing. You are looking at what is actually there is an entirely false premise that the entity follows you around and arrives everywhere that you're at, and it's always present in a helicopter, that can't be identified as stalking. That's patently absurd, and I do not agree with that whatsoever. Just factually speaking and based and having a legal understanding, that's actually not true. But the entity is relying on that, and this is what the entity does. But the pattern of conduct goes it's even more specific than that. It's narrowed down to what is a specific environment where the entity is indeed factually stalking, both on its face and its substance, because they're doing so in a specific environment which is maintained by both the people of the state and the state, and it is occurring with regard to what is legally significant. The maintenance of this environment is what is key to what is keeping under surveillance, and this surveillance, the process of engaging in surveillance, the crime of engaging in surveillance is entirely demonic, but it is an unlawful act because it's the government that's doing it, and the government is practicing that which is demonic, and that environment is readily identifiable as well. So I want to be clear, I'm referencing August 17, 2021, where the same corrupt agency, the Ontario Police Department, had again engaged in kidnapping while placing me under surveillance. And what I'm documenting on the day of being released from kidnapping, where the entity that is indeed still today stalking, the Los Angeles Police Department is the same corrupt entity that engaged in kidnapping. Do not be confused and do not make any separation in your mind because it's superficial. The state of California is engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, and there is no separation amongst the entity that is keeping you under surveillance. The environment is following wherever you go, and the entity is maintaining the criminal elements of monitoring and keeping you under surveillance by whomever is in relevant position. The Ontario Police Department and the Los Angeles Police Department, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department are the same entity. Do not be mistaken about that. Okay, what the Los Angeles Police Department is doing and documenting, it's doing it on behalf of the state. It's a criminal act. It's a criminal system that's attributed to the entirety of the entity, including the Ontario Police Department, who, when in a different region, were acting in conformity to the pattern of conduct. That's how that goes. It's not separate. So the same entity that engaged in kidnapping, which I documented on August 17, 2021, while I am at third-party facilitating venue Motel 6, which is in Ontario at Vineyard. The nearest cross street is G Street, and this is on the day of being released from kidnapping. And this particular address I will publish, but you can look it up. Motel 6 on Vineyard Avenue, cross street, G Street. It's in Ontario. It's nowhere near the Alvarado Gardens, and there is no shared sky space, and there would be no sunlight over the hillside, over buildings of 1800 and 1802. As you see it over me, as I'm walking from the Cummings Apartments, who moved out and who will be facing federal prosecution still, and you're looking at that light source that remains over me. And at 4:23 p.m., at 4:53 p.m., the light source is remaining over me while I am at the venue of this Motel 6 in Ontario, California. And the reason why I'm staying here is because I want you to see this light activity. This is all impossible light activity, and they walk around in it as though they walk around in it because you're ignorant about the environment. And when you understand the environment, you understand how it's entirely impossible light activity, and that's what the demon-possessed do. They are stalking in engineered light. Engineered light is, aka synonymous with all the terms that I've used. Directed light, synonymous with what is impossible light activity. It is impossible light activity because there would be no sun, hence no sunlight. This is the demonic illusion that's presented before you. You're conditioned to accept the fact, or in your mind, the picture that you're looking at the sun and that this is sunlight that's resulting, that's all over everything, all right? And you're not even paying attention to what's moving around in the shade, that your shadow's appearing in the shade, and that light is, you're not paying attention to your environment whatsoever because of the light activity that's surrounding you. And it's impossible light activity, and it's also impossible light activity that's playing in your face. They're walking in it, they're driving in it, okay? They're existing in it. It's covering their houses, it's covering the hillsides, covering all the grounds. This is not normal light, and you understand that when you are looking at what is that dissection. You can see it on a smaller scale inside of my apartment, that light that's traveling across my ceilings, that light that's magnified through closed blinds, showing what are leaves blowing, trees blowing, through closed blinds, magnification to that degree, through closed blinds, okay? This is impossible light activity, and this is touching all over everything. This is demonic at its core, and it's the demonic wants to appear on its surface. Again, it's only surface level, because once you dissect it, once you go beneath the surface, the entity has no basis for what it's engaging. You are caught red-handed. It is relying on a surface level of observation, okay? So at 4:53 p.m. when I am at Ontario, California, the light source is directly over me, and this is the pattern of conduct of remaining wherever it is that I sleep. And on August 17th, 2021, after being kidnapped by the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and the Ontario Police Department, which is the state of California, it is the same entity that is the LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, as you've witnessed their engagement in the pattern of conduct, and also Los Angeles Fire. Fill in the blank with any state actor. It's the same state. And at 4:53 p.m., it's currently 5. It's after 5 because this video is at 6 minutes, but I'm starting it at this time. You have what is a negligible difference, what is impossible under all accounts, that the sun would be present, as you already know, as a matter of documentation. The entity remains here from the beginning of the day, rising in alignment to my apartment, as you witnessed just the yesterday, 6:48 in the morning, until remaining after 6 p.m. And that's a matter of documentation based on the ongoing imitation of the natural environment. And I want to be clear, again, when you're only engaging on a surface level observation, you are not questioning that. But I want to be clear, based on this remaining from this side to this side, when you're seeing it clearly above where I'm at, there's no sun that is seen in the sky space ever entering into the sky space, not capable of being over anybody in another state, not even another city. It remained literally over the property. It remained literally at one property all day long. And it is impossible that, contrary to what you're looking at on the internet, for example, when we were discussing the eclipse, but you have the light source that remained over one address. That was separate from whatever everybody else was looking at. It wasn't the light source that remained over 1810 in alignment to me, setting right here all day long. That is not the same object, and it's impossible that it would be, because if anything's in the sky space in Florida, it's not sharing with what's hovering adjacent to building 1810, hovering over me through my bedroom window, by the way, 11 hours after I'm witnessing it rising in the morning at 6:48 in the morning. Okay, now all you have to do is pay attention and have that documented for the federal government to recognize what it is that you're looking at, what you're witnessing. That is the demonic. All of this light activity is impossible light activity, and they drive in it. All right, they cast it upon surfaces when they're driving. That's the demonic. It moves across their vehicles. That's exactly what the abundance just did. They're going to federal prison. That's impunity that they're engaging in, and that's why all of them that live here engaging in this system that is operated by a government is a grounds of federal prison. This intolerable level of facilitation is absolutely outlawed, and it will not be tolerated in any state. And that's why all 59 units filled with third parties are going to federal prison. In addition, what abundance is driving in, what the people of the state are living in underneath for 11 hours every day, and what they're engaging in, what is this light activity that's ricocheting off of their cars. You see the same pattern of conduct at Starbucks, by the way. Pay attention to what you're looking at, that video that's captured at 4:26 p.m. Where the light source is over me while LAPD is flying over me in helicopter at 4:30. That's the same time. You're looking at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Engineered light is swiping across the logo of Starbucks, letting you know what they're affiliated with and what they're actually doing. I want to be clear, it's the same thing at 706 West Holt Boulevard, not only outside, but in their drive-through. The people of the state driving in the drive-through and impossible light moving all across the wall. You're looking at the identical behavioral pattern, the identical pattern of conduct, all right? And the entity is maintaining a light source over the Motel 6 on August 17, 2021, which is during daylight savings time. It's the exact same time. And while that same entity that is engaging in criminal summoning, as you witnessed on June 16, 2022, while the light source is hovering above 215 East C Street, Ovid Family Community Library, even though you saw it over me at 10:30 this morning while LAPD is stalking in a helicopter, and that's exactly what you're doing in the scientific impossibility, then the maintenance of an environment, you're stalking in helicopters, and that's readily identifiable upon observation of the environment that it's occurring in. It's also readily identifiable when you just literally list down all the times that the entity is stalking in a helicopter. Just as an aside, let's just go over it. From 9:30 in the morning until 4:30 p.m. and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that's 11 times flying over me, and specifically to where I'm located. And the entity is doing so on an ongoing daily basis, stalking in a helicopter for 47 minutes in front of my apartment. Like I said, it's literally relying on what is a corrupt courthouse that would rule in any other way other than in the favor of the target individual. But that's speaking to public corruption. All right, on its face, it's relying on a corrupt government. Understand that, because on its face, it is stalking. The entity is relying on, again, a false premise that you can't identify stalking because they're using a helicopter, and that's just not true. It's relying upon what is a criminal cooperation, the act to facilitate, and the courts have the role of concealing the pattern of conduct, and that's also what I documented. But nonetheless, I want to be clear: Motel 6 on Vineyard Avenue and G Street, you're going to see the light source, which the pattern remaining wherever it is that I sleep and rising wherever it is that I sleep, and that's exactly what happened at Motel 6 in the evening. You're looking at that light source that's hovering in alignment to me in the parking lot of that Motel 6 in Ontario off of Vineyard Avenue. There's no sun that's over Abundance and his children while he's engaging what is demonic patrolling, one person after another crossing path. You're looking at demonic activity, and it's entirely creepy while they do it with children, and that's why you're taking them from the custody of the people of the state. It's very sick what they engage in. All right, they do the same thing with regard to monitoring you while you're inside of the private space. You're physically indisposed, and you're looking at engineer light appearing above your head. You can look outside of the window, and there are children that are monitoring you, used as a means of audible activity. It is engagement in the sex offense, and the entity likes to do so just like the demons like to engage in more patrolling conduct by helicopter. That's what you saw LAPD do. You're looking at them now engaging more of it with engaging it with minor children. That's what the demon-possessed population do. All right, it's a threat to the targeted individual. It's a threat to their life. This is done which is exhibiting impunity, and they are under a light source while you're looking at all these children are going to be taken from the custody of the people of the state. There's no sun that's over the Motel 6 while they're walking in that engineered light, and that's how you're going to flip that malice and that psychopathic conduct that the entity engages in with children on its face, because they're under a light source that's nowhere near Motel 6 in Ontario, California. So they're literally walking in the evidence, incriminating themselves. And also, I want to be clear, you have those that are under the age of majority, yet very mindful and aware and conscious of what is engagement in the pattern of conduct. Understand that at its nature, it's demonic activity. And these demons that are under the age of majority know exactly what they're doing in the specific environment. And that is the crime. Okay, so I just want to be clear with that. I'm referencing specifically Susana Martinez's teenage daughter and her cousin. They are engaging with malice, and the entity knows, and the entity wants to appear on camera. Like I said, this is psychotic. It's legally, it's suicidal, but the entity engages in this. This is a pattern. This is why you would arrive in relevant position flying in circles for 47 minutes. Psychopathic, incriminating, okay? Literally going to come back, not only with regard to the federal prosecution, but the world is going to learn from what the LAPD did on video, okay? But I want to be clear, the entity is engaging in what is a P.O.C, and under the light source, you have what is engaging in what is demonic activity. This is entirely threatening and very sick. They're pacing all around, and I just want you to be clear, the entity is arriving in front of the camera on purpose with children, okay? That's all that they're doing right now. They're monitoring on a very close basis, and these are minor children who are acting. These are the weaponization of the people of the state while the entity is stalking by the state both directly and doing so vicariously. The ways in which the entity does so in public venues, third-party facilitating venues such as Starbucks, this is exactly what's occurring in the engineer light while the light source is hovering over Starbucks. And while the entity is engaging in the exact same pattern of conduct, and this is why it's going to be a universal prosecution, while the people of the state, such as Starbucks, it facilitates the ongoing contribution to the delinquency of minors, engaging in sexual violence via minors and in concert with minors, that is monitoring in the private space. They engage in the same. So I just want you to understand what you're witnessing. This is exactly what Starbucks engages in. It's exactly what the entity is documented engaging in. And this is what law enforcement, all right? And they're not actually law enforcement. These are corrupt government actors who actually are not legitimate whatsoever. They have yet to accept the fact that they've been exposed, and they're going to be prosecuted as well. And they're going to be permanently removed. They're going to federal prison, okay? It is currently 5:11 p.m. This is the maintenance of the light, sir. So you're mindful of what is at the same time not occurring. Any son that's going to be over building 1802 while you're looking at a plethora of underage minors that are engaging in what is the demonic light activity creation and crossing a path, which is demonic activity. It's an act of terrorism. It is that which is also designed to psychologically torture. And the entity is, again, mistaking my ability to articulate what the demons surround me are doing with some false attempt to try to harm me. I am the one that's speaking on behalf of the ordinary targeted individual. And every attempt that the demon-possessed engage in, it's going to be weaponized against them. All of them are losing custody of their children because of the threat that they pose both to those children and to the life of a targeted individual, whom they thought that they were going to take the life of that targeted individual. This is why you engage in what is 24-hour surveillance with a corrupt law enforcement agency that engages in repeated acts, religious acts of kidnapping and defamation, as this entity has already been documented engaging what is hiring just for the criminal purpose of keeping under surveillance in the office over 11 times, and that's done even more so than that. This is just today, and this is not even every time that they engaged in sounding helicopter to communicate a threat. All 59 units are filled with third parties, and you're understanding what is the loss of custody of the minor children who are utilized to engage in what is a massive federal offense, which is going to be recognized under federal law. All right, the entity is engaging in what is a matter of an ongoing emergency to the ordinary target individual. It remains an emergency for so long as the target individual is subject to that. I just want to be clear, what you saw was deliberate conduct. It is as deliberate as that impossible light that's crawling across my ceiling in the living room, that's on my ceiling in my bedroom, that is magnified through closed blinds, where the entity is going to, in defiance of what you already know is over the Motel 6, as I'm documenting August 17, 2021, same exact time, and the entity is engaging in what is a documented pattern of engaging like the sun is ever going to be setting at the same address through the bedroom window, also through closed blinds, appearing on all of the walls, magnification of light, okay? None of that is occurring. And that deliberate scene that you just saw, a whole bunch of kids walking around, that was deliberate, all right? This is speaking to the threat that the demon-possessed population are, and you're going to remove those children. And many of those that are old enough, they will be getting what is a federal prosecution. They will be added to the Department of Justice, added to the list maintained by the Department of Justice as group stalkers, because they recognize what they're doing. Understand, first, it is demonic activity. All right, so these are demon-oppressed people who are under the age of majority, but they're engaging in a federal offense, and they know what they're doing. They understand what they're doing. The significance is to move all around and engineer light, start screaming, whatever it is that they're doing, they understand what they're doing, and their parents also understand, and they intentionally use that, and that's exactly what you saw right now. All right, and that's very, very disturbing conduct. And it is a form of psychological torture that the entity engages in, especially while they listen to me recite their tactics. You literally just saw a crowd of kids come around because the minions were listening to me tell you about that. And it's going to be submitted in federal court, and CPS is taking all of their kids. All right, but that's a matter of justice. All right, it is currently 5:14 p.m. This is P.O.C. Activity creation via underage children, group stalking in the path, and LAPD is monitoring through this right now. This is activity creation through those that are under the age of majority. All right, it is currently, again, 5:14 p.m. at 1810 North Alvarado Street. P.O.C.